Got it. All right. Hello, everybody. Hello out there. Hello in here. There's also the green smoothie, which Noah made, which is really good. What greens did he use?
Kiwi.
There's chia seeds. I think kale.
And kale.
Is it kale?
Maybe.
No, they had chard.
Chard?
Chard?
Yeah.
Oh,
I've never heard of that. It's a fish.
It's a green.
it's just another green.
It's actually pretty good when it's cooked. I've never had it before.
Yeah, I think so. The smoothie had chard in it. I think chard is a good entry level green. If you're not sure about greens, I think it's a good one. It's not hard.
It's less bland.
Right.
Spinach.
Yeah, it's less bland than spinach. It's not bitter like some of the other ones are. So welcome everybody. Since we're getting into the holiday season, I thought today we would talk about changing up our recipes, good swaps for our holiday recipes. So what do you all normally do I'm just going straight to Thanksgiving, for Thanksgiving?
Nothing.
You do nothing? You don't eat any special things on Thanksgiving?
No.
Oh, okay. That's good, I guess. We're all about the food at my house. Okay, so Dave said his wife makes a regular like turkey dinner. He has tofurkey, but eats all the sides, right?
Right, well, not every side, but most of them.
Oh, so the sides, okay. What do you guys do for Thanksgiving over there? What kind of food? Turkey?
Tamales.
Tamales, okay. Stuffing, love the stuffing. Okay,
Potato, gravy, macaroni and cheese.
nice.
Wow.
Good cheese.
Good.
Okay.
All right.
So anybody out there want to share what you do for Thanksgiving?
Well, I just do the traditional because that's what my family wants, but I don't eat the turkey.
Okay. You know, that's true. My family wants that too. We always cook a turkey if it's at our house, but I think you can healthy up or plant-based up the sides. So then you could just skip the turkey if you wanted to, or get one of those. Do you actually get the tofurkey at the store, Dave?
Yeah, I don't know where we're gonna get it. I think it was Whole Foods we got it. We're looking for them now.
Okay, that's what Mary said. She was looking for them too. I think I saw something at Trader Joe's yesterday. We tend to do like a stuffed mushroom or something like that for the vegetarians. But
Well, I'm going to San Diego and I'm in charge of cooking, so I guess
Oh.
I could do some of the stuff plant-based.
yeah, you can. So it's really easy. Like even just stuffing, you just use vegetable broth instead of the chicken broth or
Right,
whatever it
right.
usually calls for. So yeah, we can do that. We can lighten things up a little bit. Well, I'm sure I must have a slide coming up about why we might want to modify, but today my recipes. So what do you think, Rose, of those?
That's good. I didn't have I'm not crazy about cranberry.
Oh. Okay. Cranberry is my favorite. But I was excited to
Kind of partial to the pie.
the pie. Oh, the pie. Yeah, nobody's mentioned the pie. Oh, yeah. Okay, so that pie is kind of hard for some of us. So at my house, we have the pies, of course. Can't beat those Costco pies. But I tend to make a crisp or something and veganize that. That's what I tend to do in my house.
Can I share the story about Laura?
Okay, sure.
You remember the story?
I do. Linda has a story to share.
So Laura's a nurse that used to work with us, and she's been in here maybe once or twice, but not recently. And she was so excited one year because she was going to go to Debbie's house and have Thanksgiving dinner, because she said, "Oh, this is great. I'm going to have a vegetarian Thanksgiving dinner. I'm so excited." And she shows up at Debbie, and what's going on is her mother's in the kitchen dropping cubes of butter in the potatoes. And Laura was a little surprised.
Yeah. Yeah, I still do it the way my family wants to, as probably a lot of you do. But I usually, like on potatoes, I'll hold out a few. And so then I won't put that butter in there. And that's why I wanted to try this potato recipe today. Not only was it in the Instapot, So I literally got here, chopped it up, threw it in the Instant Pot for 4 minutes with a cup of vegetable broth. And then we just mashed them up. And threw a few no salt seasonings in there. But my family does use a lot of butter in their mashed potatoes. That's how I was raised. You just throw tons of butter in. And so I wanted to see how it would be without butter. So what do you think?
You know, this is good and
Delicious.
often.
Yeah. Okay, good. Because I think most everything I make, Rosie, you say, oh, that needs more salt.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, good. All right. Well, I'm glad I got a chance to try them. And I used, as I mentioned before, I used the Yukon Gold potatoes, which I've never used. My family's a russet potato or a red potato. But the Yukon Golds are nice because you don't have to peel them. Who knew? I had no idea.
They're really easy. Like my daughter takes it, puts it in the microwaves them, and then mashes them up. And eats them.
Right. So,
They're very fast.
you know, you're right. So Kevin said you can just even just microwave them and mash them up. So I know those are my tries this time. But I guess what I want to talk about today is, do you want to modify anything, or do you want to do what the family wants to do, which is totally fine too. And why we might think about modifying. And then at the end, I'll show you like one of our family's worst recipes and how we have modified it over the years. So welcome aboard. I just wanted to show this. I showed this before, and I can't remember why I thought it fits so well here when I put these together, but it's vegan diets versus plant-based diets versus a whole food plant-based diet. Because vegan, if I was just eating straight vegan, I wouldn't have any meat, of course. So you can see there's X's there, but I could be eating processed foods like Oreos, which are accidentally vegan. I'm going to get my fruits and vegetables and beans and whole grains, of course, but I could be eating a lot of that oils and highly processed foods. And we're really trying to cut back on our oils and fats because those might do damage to our endothelial cells. And then we've got plant-based diets, which aren't going to have the meat generally, but a plant-based diet is more vegetable and fruit forward. So you get a lot of plant foods, but also you might get some oils in that too, for plant-based, and some plant-based, or you might call yourself flexitarians. Like, yeah, I don't generally eat meat or anything with a face or anything that had a mom. But, you know, if somebody serves me chicken or turkey on Thanksgiving, I'm going to have it. So that's kind of the plant-based. And then the whole food plant-based is what we're leaning towards, because not only do you not have the animal products, but we try not to have processed foods, and oils would fall into the processed food category, or we have small amounts of those things. And so our main diet is going to be fruits and vegetables and whole grains and beans. And then we're going to just try to jazz all those up with seasonings and things, but try not to add too much oil. How do you feel like you do with your oil at home? I'll admit I'm not always great. What do you guys think?
We're good.
Good?
Yeah, I don't think I do too badly with it.
Okay.
Little goes a long way. I mean, what I've done is just cut back,
Mm-hmm.
partially because it got so freaking expensive, but
So true.
you know,
Okay, so
trying to cut back to where it was, you know, just enough for the universes in general.
yeah, so Kevin's saying that he has cut back, so he just uses a little bit, and a little bit will go a long way. So in my gravy recipe today, it called for it chopped up, and this was, I know it looked complicated, but I threw it just all in the food processor. I threw the garlic, the onions, and then in a separate batch, the mushrooms, so that they would be smaller. And then you just saute them. I threw them in my cast iron skillet and let them cook for about 15 minutes. They created their own fluid or water. I didn't need to add anything to it. And in fact, there was quite a bit of fluid in there before I ended up adding my broth and things. So oil is just something that, you know, we hear, oh, oil is healthy. I thought oil is good for us. And, you know, it can be in small amounts. So small amounts are what we want to do. But even, especially if we have heart disease, the processed fats can damage our endothelial cells, those cells that line our arteries. So we just want to go a little bit if we're going to do those. And so what do we get to eat then? Because I just took away probably all our favorite foods. So what we get are fruits and vegetables, whole grains, legumes or beans, tubers are going to be like the vegetables that are in the ground. So who here thinks, oh my gosh, I should never have potatoes because they're not good for me? Anybody? Good. All right, you guys are good then, because it's okay to have potatoes. I have so many people tell me they're not going to eat potatoes because they're not good for them. But potatoes are fine. And you know what I love about that potato recipe today is that it included the skins. The skins are where a lot of the fiber are. So it included the skins. So you got all that fiber too. Okay, so if we were going to try to do, so we've got plant-based, we got vegan, which is just no animal stuff, or whole food plant-based. The benefits of a whole food plant-based diet is that it's generally lower in fat and saturated fat. What are the saturated fats? What foods? Where do saturated fats come from?
Butter,
Butter,
meat.
meat.
Coconut oil.
Thank you. Coconut oil, the tropical
Why is
oils.
he pushing that so much?
Because they have the best marketing there could ever be. So Rosa, why do they push that coconut so much? And it's just good marketing. And what we have found out, I mean, I do have to admit, back in the day when I was in school, it was highly saturated and it was really bad for you, coconut. But now as they've done some studies, they find that it's a shorter chain fatty acid. So it might not have all the horrors that we thought it would, but it's still not healthy. It's still not good for us. And it's still not a health food.
And so it doesn't matter if you substitute another fat for.
No, you could substitute anything. I don't have any coconut oil in my house. A whole food plant-based diet usually has more fruits and veggies and whole grains, which we want to have the basis of our diet. And because we have so many fruits and vegetables and whole grains, we also have lots of those phytonutrients. Remember, we've talked about those before, the plant-based nutrients or chemicals that help to protect us, help protect our DNA, protect our brain, protect our blood vessels. They act as antioxidants and anti-inflammatory foods. And so because they're so good, a whole food plant-based diet has been associated with less risk of diseases like heart disease and high blood pressure, which is why a lot of us are here, but some cancers, diabetes. So there's a value to switching or trying to be a little more whole food plant-based. Even if you're not totally there, that's totally fine. We just want to move in that direction. Can help with weight loss. Vegetarians do tend to have a lower BMI. And I think that's the difference between the vegan versus the plant-based versus the whole food plant-based, because we could eat, like I said, if you're vegan, you could be eating French fries and you could be eating Oreos and things that aren't going to help with weight loss. But if we're doing a whole food plant-based, those things aren't really a part of our diet generally. So we tend to be slimmer. And if we're eating this way, not only does it help us to lose weight, it helps us to keep the weight off, because now it's a lifestyle. This is how we eat. It's not like a diet where you think, oh, I'm going to be on this diet, and as soon as I lose my weight, I'm going to go off that diet. This is a lifestyle that we do forever. And hopefully it's good enough for us that we want to do it forever. And also a whole food plant-based diet is going to be helpful for the environment. You know, I've talked about it, you guys have heard about it, how the animal industry, animal farming, that is bad for our environment, and the methane and the destroying our ozone layer. So when we switch to whole food plant-based diet, we're helping a lot of different things. So why would you want to modify anything? That's even just going into Thanksgiving. Why would you want to modify something? No, we do want to make it taste good. We want to have a healthy thing and make it taste good. Yes. Are we interested in serving food to our families and friends that's healthier? Even though they might not know they want it, they should. But usually when we modify things, we want to make it lower in fat. I mean, usually that's what we're trying to do, but also lower salt. You know, before I come here on Tuesdays, I go to a Bible study, and people bring things. So it's like a little breakfast. I've never eaten anything from there, but they were talking about one thing. They said, this needs more salt, whatever they were eating. And somebody else said, oh, I don't have to worry about salt because of this and that. And somebody else said, oh, I do. And they said, it's all because of our genes. Nobody took any responsibility for what they ate or drank. It's all because of their genes if they had a problem. So salt is something that we generally, if we don't have to worry about it now, we will someday. We want to lower our sugar generally. Sugar, I've told you before, when I was in school, it just caused cavities. That was really the only issue with sugar. But now we know it's this inflammatory food. It's usually in processed foods that isn't good for our body. So we'd like, and if you have diabetes, of course, you want to lower your sugar. So in a recipe, we might, and that's what I tried actually for all three of my recipes today. I tried less sugar. So I didn't use straight sugar in my cranberry sauce, no salt in my gravy, and didn't add any fat. We also generally want to try to increase fiber. So we did that in our mashed potatoes today. We had the skins on the potatoes. It's good to add more produce sometimes. Like you might, Dave, you said you want things to taste better. So sometimes we beef them up with more produce or vegetables or fruit or something that might taste good to us. We could turn things into a healthier option. Some things really can't be turned into a healthier option. I mean, some things just are tough to do that. But I would say most of our recipes, we could turn them around a little bit. Sometimes we want less calories. Sometimes we want fewer animal products or no animal products or less processed foods. Oh, you know what? I forgot to bring my book. Speaking of processed foods, Rose and I often talk about our old Moosewood cookbook. And I pulled mine out once a month. I pull out a cookbook and I just cook from that cookbook. Because you have all those cookbooks in your cupboard and then you never look at them again once you first got them. And so I've been trying to do once a month. I have a new cookbook that's dedicated. So this month I pulled out Moosewood, and it is so interesting. It was published in 1977. I bought it when I went to UC Davis in the early 90s, and it was only $9 then. And they must not have had any processed foods when they created it, because there's no options for using canned beans or canned anything. They make everything from scratch. So I bet they did. When did they start making canned beans?
Oh, they've always had cans. Yeah.
Did they have they?
Oh,
Because
absolutely.
I don't remember growing up with any.
Campbell's
Oh, yeah.
pork and beans.
Well, besides pork and beans. You're right. Besides pork and beans.
Well, I never ate.
There's a
My
whole.
my mother never
Been a
cooked
whole
beans.
pile of beans, canned beans.
So in the 70s, were there?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, well, it's funny. They never have had that as an option in the book. I thought they must not have made them yet.
Well, they were running a restaurant and they were probably.
They probably did everything from scratch.
Yeah. so
Yeah.
that was making money for them.
In the 1860s.
1860s. Interesting. I just thought there weren't. Okay, thank you.
And John had them make the mushroom soup out of the Hungarian mushroom.
Uh-huh.
And I really enjoyed it, and I made a batch,
Yes.
and it was very small. And then I made some more last week, and I had leftover lentils,
Uh-huh.
and I threw the lentils in, and it's just great.
Yums. So Rose likes that mushroom, the Hungarian, was it Hungarian mushroom? Oh, thank you. Yeah, there we go. All right. These are them. This is mine's paperback.
Mm.
Oh, and I've always made the lasagna recipe and the tomato sauce,
I like the gypsy soup.
the gypsy soup. You told me that, so I'm going to try the gypsy soup. One thing I was a little shocked and amazed looking at it, how much cheese and dairy they use in
Well,
almost
I didn't
everything.
advise that. I think, I don't know if they left some of the fat in there. Or
Yeah, maybe they tried to get a little healthier. But I think that's another thing. Like, I love this cookbook and I love the things in it, but I could modify them to be a little healthier.
I've cooked many things out of that, and I have that other one, and I have not cooked one recipe out of it.
But if you're not familiar with this cookbook, everything's written by hand. It's so cute. I love this cookbook. But I would like to see a healthier version.
They updated that.
Yeah,
'cause they had a I don't know, 25th anniversary or 40th anniversary republication.
Yes,
And she went back and did modify a lot of that, but it's upstate New York. So there's a lot of dairy up there.
right.
So, and they're hippies. You have to remember, this is hippie stuff where you don't allow the man to make your food.
Okay, well, that's cool. I think we should still go with that. That's a whole food plant-based tradition. You don't let the man make our food. But yeah, I got several recipes I'm trying this month in there. So
Yeah,
anyway, that I digress. So what, John? Sorry.
the tabbouleh is good, the hummus
Yes.
is good. You
Oh,
avoid the
that's-
fats, but those
Uh-huh.
I go to those all the time.
Okay, thank you. All right, so I just have some ideas for swaps. So eggs are one that is super easy to swap. So eggs, the reason why we're trying to avoid eggs is because the cholesterol in that yolk. We could go with the egg whites, which is the protein, but eggs have been associated with some health issues. And if we're going to whole food plant-based, we're not going to have eggs at all. So here's some good swaps. I feel like I've used every single one of them and they've worked well. So applesauce is common, especially in baked goods or mashed bananas. And I saw that somebody had made some brownies here when I showed up today. And they were made from bananas and lentils.
with
I think
muffins.
They were muffins. They were muffins. Thank you. So we could do that. So really, you just swap. If recipe calls for a half cup of oil, use half cup of applesauce. Aquafaba is that liquid that comes off your canned garbanzo beans. So you want to get low sodium canned garbanzo beans, so it's not super salty. But that stuff is the miracle worker. We'll talk about it in a few other things, but you can use that as a fat replacer. Chia seeds and flax seeds, both when mixed with water. So you take your chias or you take your flax, 1 tablespoon each, and you mix them with 3 tablespoons water, it gets thick. So flaxseed gets thicker faster, about 5 minutes, but the chias takes about 10 minutes for it to gel. And then they would have more of the properties of an egg. Prune puree is a good one, like the baby food prunes, is a great one in chocolate dishes. Like if you're making chocolate cake or chocolate muffins, you don't taste the prune at all, but it lends itself very nice as a fat replacer. Pumpkin is another one. Or tofu. And you want to use the silken tofu, the kind that comes in the little box generally. And you whip it up, whisk it until it's smooth, and then you could add that in place of an egg. Yes.
You know, I've looked at silken tofu a lot and none of it's organic, so I don't know what the deal is with it. So I was buying the other tofu that's organic and I tried to find some silken, but it's not organic.
That's a good point. So Dave's mentioning that he likes to get his tofu organic, and the Morinu isn't in the box. But does anybody know of some of those other brands that are more in the little tub? And is it the silken? Okay.
What about Sprouts?
Yeah, I've not looked lately, but that's a good thing. We could try Sprouts and see. That's a good point, Dave. Thanks for bringing that up. Yeah. So the Asian market, what's it called?
OTOW.
OTOW down on the south side?
Yeah, it's just south of William Park.
South of William Land Park. So they've got some tofu too.
You can also go to Safeway. Their organic brand, silken tofu, is in little tubs.
Okay.
I'll check Safeway.
Okay, good. Good to know. All right, good. Has anybody used any of these or other swaps for eggs?
I use the flaxseed all the time.
Okay. That tends to be more my go-to.
But I feel I should use aquafaba because the flaxseed is sometimes dark. And I wondered if the aquafaba would be better.
True. The flax can change the color of your product. So the
Yes.
aquafaba might not. That's true. Okay, so those are some egg swaps we could do. So thinking of what Thanksgiving type recipes use eggs? Anything?
I am always so happy if I don't have to smell turkey on Thanksgiving.
You know, I love that smell, which is terrible to say. But even last night when I was doing the gravy and cooking the onions and the mushrooms, it smelled like Thanksgiving in my house. Yeah, I can't think of many egg recipes for Thanksgiving. But let's say, okay, you're trying to change and get away from eggs, but how are you going to have an omelet? Well, you can make omelets. They're different. They're not going to be exactly like your omelet you could make with eggs, but using chickpea flour. And you just add a little, usually a plant-based milk to it. And then you pour it in your pan and it'll be omelet-like.
Really?
I actually think it's pretty good. Yeah. If you're doing scrambles, like you do a scramble, then you could use scrambled tofu instead of the eggs. And a lot of times that's an option if we go out to eat too. A lot of places will have that. What if you want to make French toast, which normally you have an egg wash on before you cook it? You could use the aquafaba instead of the egg wash. What about a frittata or a quiche? There seem to be lots of recipes for these. Usually they call for the chickpea flour or tofu. So basically you say, gosh, I really want to make my traditional frittata that I make every year on the holidays. Just Google vegan frittata and you'll come up with lots of different recipes. And I think, John, have you made a couple of those kind of things here before?
I've made them at home, but not there.
Oh, okay.
I find the chickpea to be grainy.
Yeah.
And I like the tofu a little better, but it's
Smoother.
a tough call.
Okay.
We've done the scrambled eggs here
Uh-huh.
and they're delicious.
Yes.
And they taste like eggs.
Right. Yeah. The secret to making your tofu taste like eggs is to use a little bit of that black salt,
Yeah.
which is really pink, but it's got a sulfur kind of
Yeah.
taste to it. So it makes it eggier.
And you have to add it at the very end.
And add it at the very end. Thank you. So what about trying to lower the fat on some of our regular recipes? And by getting rid of or reducing our butter and oil, or even you might say, well, I use vegan butter or I use olive oil, but what if we still were trying to decrease those? So like let's say I like to put butter on my toast. Okay, what could I do instead? Well, I could put jam. I could make a compote of, bunch of vegetables. Bunch of fruits. I could do avocado. What is hotter than anything these days? Avocado toast. You could do hummus. We could do peanut butter. That's my go-to. Oh, and I left the corn butter here. I didn't include the recipe this time, but I think Linda probably has it. There's a recipe for corn butter. It actually uses corn and turns into a butter.
Forks over knives?
I think it's forks over knives. What about the oil? Every recipe says start with 2 tablespoons of oil and saute those onions. Well, what if we use water instead, or vegetable broth, or a little wine, and just add it slowly? Your vegetables are going to create some of their own water if you give it time. Yeah, you're right, because they are mostly water. So you just got to give it a little time. And then right before you think it's going to burn, you add a little more fluid. And it's called deglazing. And you get those little, things on the pan that you scrape up, and that adds flavor to those. In baking, we want to cut back on the butter or oil. We could swap with the applesauce, the mashed banana, the pureed fruit. Hi there. We could use the aquafaba too there. And what about frying? Because there definitely is, we like things crispy. Now, some of you, who here has an air fryer that they've used? Okay.
What's a copper crisper?
I should have brought mine. It is poor man's air fryer. I have one. It's like a copper pan with a little copper basket that you set on top of it. And so you put your things, like if I'm gonna do my tofu, I put my tofu on there. And then when I stick it in the oven, it almost, because the basket lifts it a little off the pan, it circulates, because really an air fryer is just a convection oven where the air circulates around it. So it's the poor man's air fryer, which is what I have.
And you don't have an air fryer?
I do not have an air fryer. So those of you who have the air fryer, tell us all about it. Should I put it on my Christmas list?
It's fast.
Yes.
It heats up everything really fast for me.
Okay.
Well, I don't know, maybe it's similar to what you have, if yours is pretty fast too.
No, mine is not fast at all.
Oh, no.
I mean, I cook it things for like 20 minutes, half hour.
Oh, wow, yeah, no, it could be like 5 minutes.
Okay, yeah.
and-
Yeah, mine is not fast. What about others? Okay, thank you for sharing that. Okay, we got a definitely team air fryer over here. What about anybody else?
We've got one of those combo, cooking pots with the air fryer built into it, so.
Amazing. Yes.
But it's still a lot of stuff and it's big and you gotta store it somewhere and
That's what's always turned me off about the air fryers, is just so darn big.
They make little ones.
They do.
They make little ones.
Okay,
Just-
they make
but
smaller
to
ones.
be honest, I don't really use my air fryer that much.
You don't?
Mm-mm.
Why not?
I'm kind of never home now.
Oh.
So I'm either
So,
here
'cause you're
or
just-
at work.
You're just not cooking. Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
You know, that, you know, yeah, I mean, like the Instapot, I was really worried about getting big one.
Right.
You just have so little counter space, but if they make a small one.
Uh-huh.
you use it every day.
Yeah, I use mine a lot too, the Instant Pot. So this one, is that the shape of an Instant Pot? Like a crock pot shape?
yeah,
Okay,
it's got two covers on it. You
Uh-huh.
have one if you're gonna use, the pressure.
right,
part of it. You take that off and then you just drop down the other lid if you're gonna
okay,
use the
all
air
right.
fryer part.
okay. And I know here we have, I think it's the Breville. It will do all that stuff too. It'll do air frying, but it's a convection oven. So if you have a convection oven, you have an air fryer.
I didn't realize that.
I didn't either. I think somebody here taught me that. I didn't know. So then a lot of times what we'll do for our veggies is we'll roast our veggies, right? So roasting means you're throwing them in the oven. And so a lot of times we smother them in oil when we do that, thinking we've got to do that to get that roastedness. But we don't. So here's just little tricks. So you're not going to use the oil. We set the oven to 425. I generally use a silicone mat or a parchment paper for mine. You cut your veggies, try to do them the same size. Then you could season them. I read somewhere, and I have not tried it yet, that they coat their roasted the veggies they're going to roast, with a mixture of vegetable broth and applesauce. And said that really gives it a good texture. I've not tried it yet. So, but generally I'll just use some vegetable broth or lemon or vinegar or something, spread them out so they have some room to breathe, and then you roast them. And so I don't know, we do this a lot. It's in the winter. In the summer, we're usually out on the grill, but I find it makes your vegetables very, very tasty. But if you don't put anything on them, they're kind of dry. So I think the vegetable broth at least is really important. Okay, what about milk and yogurt? What if we were trying to move more plant-based, whole food plant-based with that? So there's plenty of plant milks out there. What's your favorite plant milk if you use a plant milk?
Mine is
Soy?
almond, but I just read
Almond?
today that the only one that has protein in it is the soy.
Is the soy.
Yeah.
That's why I love that soy too. Unfortunately, my husband likes the almond flavor better, so.
I just had a little tiny bit in the carton, I'm like, I can't put that back in the refrigerator, right?
Yeah,
So I put it in my mud water and went, wow, because I'd given up on cream
uh-huh.
and I liked it. Now I have it every day.
Is mud water coffee?
Mud water is a little bit of chai tea, several types of mushrooms,
Yeah,
a combination of other things like cumin.
Interesting. Okay.
I'm surprised you haven't, they advertise everywhere.
Mud water?
Water.
Never heard of it.
It's an alternative to your coffee.
Oh, okay.
Got chocolate in it too.
Well, you can't really go wrong with that. Okay. So most of these milks you can use interchangeably in recipes, but you want to do the ones that are unsweetened and unflavored if you're going to use it in most recipes. I think the soy milk does have the most protein of them. The almond milk, while super low calorie, doesn't have a whole lot going on except it gets your cereal wet and it acts like milk. So that's fine if you like that. Whatever one you like. They're almost all fortified with calcium and vitamin D, so they'll be like milk. So we got oat. You can make your own milks. Who's made their own milk? Oat milk. That's a popular one to make. Anybody made that one? So that you put it, you mix it, I think, with water, and you put it in a bag. I think that's what she's doing down there in that picture.
Mhm.
And then you like squeeze it out. I don't know. I like that idea, but I don't love the idea because now it's not going to be fortified with calcium or anything. But it's probably cheap. Has anybody tried the new banana milk? It's banana milk. Yeah, not tried that.
I tried a bunch of them, like oat and almond and hemp and,
Uh-huh.
you know. Sweet soy was the best.
I like the soy the best too.
And I go with unsweetened because.
I go unsweetened because they can add a lot of sugar to make those things palatable.
Right. You have to look at the ingredients.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard.
You do.
It's like everything else.
And if you are
Mm.
using it to get calcium, do look at the label to make sure they've added calcium, because I've grabbed the wrong soy milk before, just grabbed it, not thought about it, and I get home and it didn't have the calcium. And buttermilk, if a lot of recipes, baked recipes tend to, even during the holidays too, call for buttermilk. And of course, most of us don't have buttermilk sitting around in our fridge, but you can make your own with any of your plant milks by just taking a cup of your favorite plant milk, adding a tablespoon of an acid like lemon juice or vinegar, let it stand for 5 minutes. Now you're not going to want to swing it down if you like buttermilk, but it will have those same properties when it gets into your recipe.
What about eggnog?
I have seen some recipes. I don't know, tell me, what would you do to it? That's a good example. What would we do to make it healthier and veganer?
Those non-dairy ones, are they not healthy? The ones in the,
So like Silkwa has an eggnog. They make one. I can't imagine it is, but I haven't looked because I don't love eggnog.
oh,
Does anybody know the secrets to eggnog?
no,
Does eggnog really have eggs in it?
I think so.
I think so.
Yeah.
I think so. I don't think the non-dairy one does.
No. Oh no. So non-dairy wouldn't. But I just bet they add some other things, but I'm gonna look into that. Good thought.
This is my dad had
I've made soy milk
before
before.
when I was younger. I never liked it.
You didn't like it because all yours, every time you stole some of your dad's, had a little bourbon in it.
A lot of bourbon in
A
it.
friend of mine, she gave me her machine to make soy milk.
Yes.
It's a lot of work. You gotta soak it overnight.
Oh,
It's a lot of work. And, I guess you'd be mad because I only did it once. You know?
oh,
You have to do it too. And it's a machine that you just put all this stuff in it and process. it.
oh. So Theodora is saying that she has tried to make soy milk before and it is not worth the effort.
But it tastes better.
Oh, it did taste better though. Okay.
John's
But it's
made
a-
soy milk.
Yeah. John, do you still make soy milk?
No,
No.
I do have a lot of soy still waiting.
Oh, okay.
It's easier to walk to the store than it is to make up a quart of soy milk.
I have a bunch of soybeans. I should try that. Okay, so what about substituting the meat? So, in fact, I bet this is where a lot of people get started. You know, you're cutting back, you're not ready to get rid of the butter in your mashed potatoes and all that, but you're willing to swap something to get rid of the meat or that animal on your plate. So we could use the fake meats if we wanted. They're not necessarily healthier, but they might be more sustainable for our environment. And of course, the animals prefer us to use those, but they're not necessarily healthier. They're not an unprocessed food. You can make your own easily, but for getting your protein, you want to try beans and lentils and legumes. That's going to be a great source of protein, the best and the cheapest. I've never done that, just had beans on Thanksgiving. No, it's just not festive. But you could. You could have tofu, you could have tempeh, which is just a fermented soybean that they usually add something else in to set it. Who here likes tempeh? Anybody? Okay, who here doesn't like tempeh? Okay, you don't.
Well, my wife just bought a block of this.
Right.
And I didn't know what to do with it or anything, so I took a bite of it. He wasn't very.
Oh,
You gotta do something
I think
with it.
tempeh, yeah. Dave's not crazy about the tempeh, but I don't think you're giving it a chance. I didn't love it when I first had it either, and I keep trying different things. It's kind of starchy. And so I read one recipe that said you cut it in cubes and then you steam it for like 10 minutes, and then you get rid of some of that starchiness. A recipe recently, I just took that little block and grated it and put it in my chili, and it was fine. Like it added all, because tempeh is a cheap source of protein, really. It's got a lot of protein in it. One of those little packages is usually 2 servings and 17 grams of protein. So the grating was actually kind of nice, because then you didn't really have that texture. I've tried just putting it straight out onto the barbecue, and that did not work for me. But I hadn't learned my boiling secret then. You could also make veggie steaks. So here we have a picture of a cauliflower steak. This looks kind of festive. Has anybody ever tried to make steaks from your vegetables? What was it? It was cauliflower. Oh, okay. I think that's a popular one. Anybody else tried any?
I tried to do it with cauliflower, but I only got 2 steaks for this entire head. The rest
I
was a
agree.
shambles of cauliflower.
I know this picture here, it must be like the one perfect steak you can get out of the head of cauliflower. You have to get it. Yeah, that's right. You gotta start with one of those really huge ones. But I like those, but you could also, and I think we've done it on our little barbecues before, had make carrot dogs. You could do portobello mushrooms. I think one thing to remember when you're doing these steaks out of veggies, it's not going to be in as many calories or as much protein if you're doing a swap for meat. So you want to make sure you're beefing up, so to speak, your other dishes. Otherwise, you're going to be hungry because it's not that many calories. You have a question?
I don't use fake beef, but I do occasionally use fake chicken.
Yes.
Probably put it with a steak or still just-
Chicken. Mhm.
I know it's not the healthiest, but by going with the one with the least amount of sodium, is that kind of better?
Yeah.
But
So,
I have one that has just 320,
uh-huh.
or maybe it was less, a little less, 280.
Okay, that's not bad. You know, Paul's asking about the fake meats, and he doesn't have them very often, but when he does have something, he tries to go for the least sodium. I kind of go for the fewest number of ingredients, if I can, the less sodium and less fat. Here's some potential veggie steaks, if you're interested. Beets. I've actually never tried the beet. I've done the butternut squash. The cabbage would be a lot like the cauliflower. You don't get a lot of it, but you can do it. I've not done the celery root. I've done the eggplant and the portobello mushrooms. But you rub something on it to make it taste good, and then you cook, and it takes a while here to cook it. And then I think the big secret is the sauce you put on it, because that's what's going to give it the most flavor. And then what about cheese? I think this is the hardest thing to let go if you're trying to become more plant-based. But remember, dairy cheese has this stuff in it that's addictive, because we want the calves to want to go back to mom to get more milk. So it does that to us too. It's high in saturated fat. It can contribute to heart disease, diabetes, cancer. And, you know, they do make a lot of fake cheeses. I personally have not found any that I particularly love. A lot of times they're like the fake meats. They've got a bunch of chemicals in them. This Miyoko's, at least she makes hers from whole real foods as much as possible. You can get Miyoko's everywhere now. She's pretty mainstream. It's a woman who is Miyoko. But if you wanted a cheesy flavor, you could try nutritional yeast. Sprinkle it on pasta. You could put it on your popcorn. It actually went in my gravy recipe. What did you guys think of that gravy?
Good.
Was-
Yeah, that was
It
good.
was okay. So you made a paste after you sauteed all those vegetables, you put broth in, and then you made a paste with nutritional yeast. And I finally gave in and bought the coconut aminos, which I always thought were just a crock. Everybody says, oh, lower in sodium and stuff, but they were lower in sodium. A tablespoon was 160 milligrams of sodium compared to a tablespoon of soy sauce that just, 1,000. But it has a bit of a sweet flavor. It wasn't because it's not salty, I guess. You can make your own cheesy sauce. There's lots of recipes out there for cheese sauce. A lot of them are made from potatoes as a base or throwing in some nutritional yeast. You can make your own little cheeses, often cashew based or nut based cheeses that you could do. And of course, ice cream, the ultimate dairy that we don't want to give up. I love the ice cream. Who here likes ice cream?
I
Anybody?
haven't tried it yet, but I have a lot of recipes.
Yeah, all it is frozen bananas that you blend up. That's all it is. I do mine in my food processor. You add a little bit of milk to help it blend a little bit.
You put chocolate in it.
You can put, I do cocoa powder sometimes. Sometimes I put strawberries. I will put whatever fruit I have or just plain. But yeah, you can make an awesome chocolate ice cream. And it doesn't have a heavy banana flavor. You could add peanut butter. You could add your PB2 peanut butter powder. I think it's pretty good.
You heard of that, ice cream shop called Cream?
Yes. And I've not been there. It's in Sac, right? So there's an ice cream shop that's all vegan. And it's in Sacramento. And I've not been there yet.
Sacramento,
Ah, okay.
What's it called?
Cream.
Cream?
yeah, it's funny because there's no milk products in any of their stuff, but it's ice cream. I mean, ice cream substitute, but it's all vegan based.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to try that.
Problem is you go in there and order a big bowl and.
Don't want to get the ice cream headache. Okay, sugar is another thing we often are trying to modify recipes to lower the sugar. So, because sugar is associated with higher triglycerides in our blood, higher blood pressure, more inflammation, and of course the cavities. So a lot of recipes, you could just leave it out, or you could use less. Or you could use whole foods as your sweeteners, like dates and date paste are popular. You can use dried fruit, you can use fruit. So in our cranberry sauce today, it was just orange juice and orange zest. And that was the sweetness, because usually cranberry sauce is good because of all that sugar. And then just some little plant-based odds and ends. So gelatin is actually made from animals, hooves and things you might not want to know about. So agar powder is something that often recipes will use. I've never bought any. Has anybody?
I've never seen it in the store.
No, it's got to be like at the co-op or Whole Foods or somewhere. Has anybody seen it? You have where? Is it? Okay. Okay. Thank you. You can
I've
use
got
it all.
some.
You have some? You can
Yeah,
use
I-
it to make marshmallows.
Yeah, I've used it as a thickener and you can use it in making the cheeses actually.
Okay, good to know. I need to get some. Marshmallows also are made with gelatin. So if you're really trying to be plant-based, you might not want to have those, but Dandy's is a brand that doesn't add gelatin. And you'll find that, I know Walmart has a brand and Trader Joe's has a brand. So you can find them now and then, or you can make your own using the aquafaba and the agar. Never tried it, but I would love to. Fish sauce is often in recipes, and you want that flavor, that umami, that savory flavor, the kind of a meaty flavor. So you can, I tend to leave it out. A lot of times I'll substitute with a little soy sauce, or you can get this dried mushroom liquid. And this was the first time also, because in the gravy, it called for dried mushroom seasoning or powder, and I'd never had it before. I got it at Target for $1.99. I don't know, it's just, I don't even know what the flavor is. It's just, I don't know, savory, I guess. So it's the first time I've tried that. And here's that aquafaba again to make your whipped cream, which Linda has done. So you use that liquid, blend it up with a little sweetener and that cream of tartar.
It tastes fine. It doesn't hold up super
It
well.
doesn't, no, you can't use it to, decorate your cupcakes or anything. You got to put it on that nice cream and eat it fast. So where are you going to begin if you wanted to make some changes for the holidays? Are you going to go cold turkey, so to speak, and just give up the turkey and the animals? Or are you going to slowly change and weed out a few things? So you could start by making a list of your favorite meals or your favorite holiday things, and then start making little swaps to your favorites. You can look up recipes. I like the pork over knives. John is right. They don't spice too much. He thinks they're pretty bland, but when I want to make something that's a traditional meat or animal based, I'll just Google vegan, whatever it is. And, you'll start to have the people that you really like the brand new vegan is good, or I like minimalist baker. So you start to find the people that you like.
They have forks over knives, TV dinners and Sprouts.
They do?
Yeah.
Forks over knives TV dinners. Huh, you heard it here first. So what about the holidays? How do you feel? Are you going to just, whether Thanksgiving, Christmas, Hanukkah, New Year's, whatever you celebrate? I would encourage you to go into the holidays with a goal, and you can do this too. A lot of people going, well, it's the holidays, so I'm going to do whatever I want. And that's okay. But remember, the holiday is just one day. Because I can't tell you how many times in January and February, patients will come to me and they maybe put on a pound or two. Well, it was the holidays. Because we just stretch them out. They start at Halloween and go till Valentine's. So remember, it's just one day, and maybe make a goal. Remember, our SMART goals are specific things that you can do. So I'm going to modify my Thanksgiving recipes by doing whatever you're going to do, or a recipe. So this is our family recipe that we stole from another family. Because I grew up on the canned sweet potatoes with marshmallows all over them. That's what we always had. And then somebody brought this to our house, and that became our recipe. So it's a souffle, and it calls for the sweet potatoes and then eggs and sugar and half a stick of margarine for just the base, and then milk and cinnamon. And then you mix that up, you stick it in the oven, and it does raise a little bit like a souffle. And then you pull it out and you make this topping where you use yet another stick of butter and some cornflakes and some brown sugar and some pecans. You put it on, and then you cook it some more. It's divine. This is the best thing ever. But we've modified it over the years. So what would you do to it to change it up? Assuming you like sweet potatoes. You could, so Paul said you could swap out the eggs. And I've always just left out the eggs, but then it doesn't souffle. But I should try it this year with a substitute. That's a good idea. Like the aquafaba, I bet that would make it poof up a little bit more. We just gave up the souffle idea. And do you need a stick of margarine in sweet potatoes?
No, not really.
So what we've done in the last few years is we just use sweet potatoes. We don't add anything to it at the bottom. The topping is where it's at.
Use perfect.
I have used cornflakes, but no, now I get a high fiber, fun cereal. Even like a granola-y cereal, like a not so great for you cereal, but one that's got fiber in it. So I use a sweeter cereal. And I'll
So
mash
it's
those up.
No longer that recipe.
It is not, but it tastes, I would probably, haven't had the real one in so long, but it tastes amazing still. So we don't use the butter at all. We just sprinkle the cereal, mix with the pecans and a little sugar if it's not a sugary cereal. We just mix that on top.
So you don't use the cup of sugar in the middle?
No.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-mm. And it doesn't need it. It's sweet potatoes
So you just have baked sweet potatoes with cereal
with,
on top.
with cereal on top. That's it. That is it.
I like the common.
Yeah.
I don't need any cereal.
Oh, okay. So
Brown sugar,
no,
cinnamon, that would just be right there.
it's perfect. You're right.
You do cheat it a little bit. One time I put a little coconut in and it just took it to another.
Oh, of course it would.
Yeah.
It would. But think about your favorite recipes. Who has just a family recipe?
Why aren't you supposed to have the marshmallows?
That's
in
crazy.
this dish?
Not, this one does not know. We gave up the marshmallows when we switched to this one.
My daughter goes sometimes. She makes marshmallows. If she doesn't bring that dish, they get mad at her.
Oh, she makes her own marshmallows. You know who does is Laura. Laura makes her own marshmallows. And I should get her into trying to make some with me with that agar-agar,
Yeah,
so the
it is really
gelatin.
healthy, sure.
Yeah.
Hello? Hello?
Hello?
It's huge hit.
Yeah, I'm sure. Homemade marshmallows are heaven. They are really so good compared to the kind we normally have.
So what's in it? Just out of curiosity.
In a real marshmallow?
No, the one that they, the one they make from scratch.
If it's gelatin and sugar. Yeah, lots and sugar.
I think she- Bob asked her.
Oh, we need that recipe. Yeah, if she's making vegan ones. So
Paul?
depending on where you're at,
Paul,
oh,
I have a question.
Paul, go ahead. Sorry.
I was saying your recipe, could you swipe out the sugar with dates in some kind of form?
You totally could. You're right. You could leave out the sugar. You could swap it for dates or any of those things. The thing is, it's sweet potatoes. I mean, they just really, you don't, especially if you add the cinnamon or nutmeg or something, you can add those sweet kind of spices. But we could substitute that. You're right. So today I'm going to try this cranberry sauce on my family, who sadly like the gel kind in a can. But I like whole berry kind. So I'm going to try this. I love that it didn't have all the sugar in it.
So when you come back next time, you need to bring some sweet potatoes
Okay.
with some cereal on top.
Okay. Next time I'm going to bring the sweet potatoes. That's a good idea. Okay. And I'm way over time. So I'm going to sign off, you guys. I hope everyone has a great Thanksgiving, a great healthy one. So think of one recipe you might want to make a little change in.
Does anybody in Zoom have questions?
Any questions out there? I'm stopping sharing. Like, I can't tell you how crushed my dad was the year we quit making green bean casserole.
Wow.
So now we just do straight green beans with some slivered almonds, but he's going, where's the casserole? But there are vegan recipes for that too.
My wife watching.
Oh, she is?
Say goodbye.
Paul wants to make an announcement.
Oh, no, not you.
No, okay, I'm saying bye. Bye, you guys.